Hey, I'm the colorblind architect back at you again today. It's November 30th, 2020, and I have to tell you, this is just going to be a short, well, hopefully it's going to be a shorter video. Sometimes I ramble on a bit, and I'm guessing that not a whole lot of people actually want to listen to it, especially since it seems like nobody does. But that's okay. Here's the deal. I want to talk about unification or unity or coming together. This is something that I know a couple weeks ago when the media decided to coronate Joseph Robinette Biden, the presumptive nominee, the presumptive president-elect. It was something of a weird moment because there were still, a ton of races that were not even closely determined yet. And at the time, of course, all the low information people, they all go out and dance in the streets like, oh, yay, ding dong, the witch is dead, because in their minds, they believe the crap that they're being taught in the mainstream media. And they believe that Donald Trump is Hitler. Which, that makes sense because he's the most pro-Israel president in decades. They're going to have to rethink that, huh? So, in his speech, he talked about unity. And since then, we've also seen people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Robert Reich, that they're talking about, truth and reconciliation, which is basically another way of saying, hey, we're gonna find out who you are, and we're gonna destroy your life if you supported Trump. And that's pleasant, isn't it? But Biden, he talked about how we need to come together, how we need to unify. Somehow I don't think he actually meant for the left to come over to the right. Somehow I don't think he meant, hey, let's all kumbaya. Somehow I think he more was trying to say, okay, it's time for all you people who think that Trump won to sit down, shut up, and accept my rule. Because he's going full force in establishing a cabinet and everything, and he's not even officially the president-elect. Which, that's fine and all. He can LARP all he wants, If he wants to live-action roleplay and pretend he's the president-elect, sure, have fun. But in the real world, we're still dealing with a bunch of states where there's still election contests going on. Now, this is not to say that I don't think that President Trump is in a very, very precarious position, electorally speaking. I think it's highly probable, probably 99.9% chance that Biden is going to be the next president. And if he is, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a suck fest all around. I mean, after all, the right already thinks that he stole the election. The left hates him because he's too corporatist and not left-wing enough. And then there's basically all of us here in the middle, all of us average Americans, who were like, wait, we just want to have low taxes and minimal government interference. We just want to live our lives. We don't want to have to think about what's going on in Washington. Frankly, that's how most people are. Most people do not care about politics. Most people do not want to hear about politics. Now, but instead, we're going to be forced to think about it because Biden's already talking about, all kinds of stuff like mask mandates and, bringing back more regulation, changing the face of cities and suburbs by eliminating single-family housing zoning, which, by the way, as an architect, I am really pissed off about that. Okay? I know a lot of my colleagues in the profession are idiots, and they think it's okay that, oh yeah, because single-family homes, they're very wasteful. We need to get rid of single-family housing zoning. And the reason why I say that that's idiotic is because it doesn't recognize the reality of most of America. In most of America, you need single-family, zones. It just doesn't work to have a bunch of apartments. But you look at communists, that's what they always do. Communists always try to, destroy the single-family housing and replace it with socialist apartment blocks. Look at every single communist country, that's what they do. And, of course, their logic is, oh, well, we need to modernize. We need to make it more efficient and, good for the environment. No, what you want is you want a bunch of caged animals so that you can control us. That's the truth. That's what these leftists actually want. Now, look, I did my undergraduate studies in urban planning, and I have a master's in architecture, so trust me, I know what the hell I'm talking about when I'm talking about zoning law. I've been an architect for over 10 years and in the profession for almost 20 years. I know what the hell I'm talking about when I'm talking about zoning. Okay? There are good zoning laws and there are bad zoning laws. And every single city each city, each county controls their zoning laws. What Biden is talking about doing, he's talking about federalizing zoning. And in other words, you'd have a bunch of needle nose idiots in Washington. And no, that's not a racial comment. I screwed it up. It's needlehead or pointy head. Like these academic types. You have a bunch of these idiots who've never actually worked in the real private sector, working for government, determining from their lofty position in their bureaucracy in Washington what zoning should be. Whereas the entire point of America is a federal system where we all have our rights. We all, and we all have local governments, state governments, and so forth to divide up the power so that you don't have power concentrated in the hands of too few. We don't like that in this country. That's actually why we have such a freaking mess in the electoral system, because every state decides how to run their elections their own way. Even though it's a presidential election, right? That presidential election is not dictated by the federal government completely. It's actually mostly done by the state legislatures. They determine how the laws are supposed to be as to how the elections are run and what are the processes, how the electors are chosen, and so forth. We hold that dear because as Americans, we have a deep-seated mistrust of government, and it goes all the way back to 1776, and it makes sense why we are so distrustful of government, because we do not like tyranny. I mean, we started our country based on the idea that we didn't like a 1% sales tax on tea. Now, I know I'm oversimplifying, but it wasn't really just the fact that it was a tax. It was the fact that this tax was being levied without us having any kind of representation whatsoever. We had no choice to say, yeah, okay, that's okay. You can just take more of our money. And so, for these idiots out there who they totally misunderstand the point of a federal system, they totally misunderstand the reasoning behind the Constitution, the reasoning why we have checks and balances, why we have 3 branches of government. I mean, because what they do is, a lot of these idiots, they look over to Europe and they see these parliamentary systems, and they think, oh yeah, parliamentary systems are so much better. They're so much more refined, and they're well thought out, because, these parliamentary systems, these governments, they can actually move. They can actually get things done. They actually bring about socialized health care. Well, wait a second. I don't want socialized health care. What about that? What about the fact that I don't want an all-controlling government that can take everything from me? Okay? I don't want that. I want my government to be restrained and confined to the limited powers that it should have in order to do the functions that it needs to, like building roads, like maintaining the military so that it can, so that the government can protect us from foreign powers. There's things like that that are important. For example, environmental law. Okay, yeah, there's certain environmental laws that I'm fully in agreement with, because you need to have certain laws that transcend the personal responsibility to take care of your own land, because there are a lot of lands that are not yours, right? For example, you've got neighbor lands. Well, okay, obviously, it's not appropriate to be dumping trash in your neighbor's yard. Okay? That's an environmental law that I 100% agree with. There's another, there's the federal lands, right? That's land that we all share. Well, the tendency, if you don't regulate it, is people are gonna just, there's gonna be bad actors out there that will just dump onto federal land. They'll just do really crappy things like that. So there is a place for government, but it needs to be limited. It needs to be limited so that the government never has enough power to destroy your life or destroy your business. Unfortunately, this year, we've allowed governments to do so. We've allowed governments to come in and destroy our lives and our businesses based on the fear of a virus. And it's just a virus, people. Yeah, I know. It kills people. But so does cancer. So does heart disease. So do car accidents. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we letting these tyrants take over? Thankfully, last week, the Supreme Court issued the ruling against the state of New York, confirming that, yes, the First Amendment does grant us the freedom of worship, and that includes being able to gather together. So that was a really important win, because we need to stop this nonsense. We need to stop this nonsense where the government is taking advantage of us. So I was going to talk about the unity, the question of unity. And here's the thing. I don't want to unify with people who are trying to steal my country and turn it into a communist country. I'm sorry. I'll try to unify with people who believe in justice, I will try to unify with people who will be good. But I'm not going to unify with people who are going to be evil. So, anyways, I went longer than I expected to and didn't even cover the points that I wanted to. But, you know, again, if I cared about what my viewers want to see, this would be a very different YouTube channel, or Rumble channel for that matter. By the way, I have started putting my videos on Rumble, largely because you know, I do want the competition. I don't want YouTube to have a monopoly on this stuff. I mean, granted, YouTube is way better in terms of quality, but on the flip side, yeah, I'm not very happy with the way they treat people. Obviously, for me, as just rando guy making videos from his car with all of about maybe 1 or 2 views every video. I mean, I don't even think my mom's watching, to be quite honest. So I'm basically just talking to myself at this point. I would love to hear comments. I'd love to get more feedback. I'd love to actually have guests, and interview people. That would be fun. There's a lot of things that I would love to do with this. Granted, I've got a full-time job. This is not what I do for a living. I do this because I really believe in some important values that I feel like need to be spoken aloud. And I feel like this is one of the few ways that I can get it out. I'm relatively active on Facebook, but it's hard to it's hard in that environment as well, because you also don't want to turn off your friends and family by constantly talking about stuff. And no, I mean, I don't constantly talk about this stuff. It's just a couple times a week I need to vent. I need to get these ideas out there. And so that's why I do these videos. Again, I don't need anybody to actually watch. I don't need anybody to actually, comment. I'm doing this for me. But if you are watching this, go ahead, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you like it. Make some comments. Let's have a conversation. Because frankly, that's something I really want. Is I want for us to talk. I want the world to stop being so angry at one another. We need to start talking more. But it doesn't seem like people want to do that anymore. Seems like everybody wants to just live in their own little echo chamber and not actually venture out into hard ideas. Anyways, again, I went long, but thank you if you actually watched this all the way through. You're awesome. Thank you for taking the time. And in the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope your December is wonderful. I hope Christmas is wonderful for you. And I'm the Colorblind Architect. Peace out.